Hello, this is Joe with Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening, and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things that are important to the world of live fire, barbecue, and grilling. The live fire industry as we've come to know it. Originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the quarantined North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you here on your Tuesday evening. Should you see fit to join into the fun and frivolity over the next 120 minutes, love to have you, and here's how you get in touch with me.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening coming up in about 13 minutes from now, third Tuesday of the month. And it's going to bring a pair of visits from regulars at different times. First up, as I was mentioning, the author of the Barbecue Bible, a Barbecue Hall of Famer, a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, TV show host, cooking class instructor, and the list goes on and on. That, of course, being Stephen Raichlen, creator of the Barbecue Bible, barbecuebible.com, his website. If you've never visited, a lot of recipes, a lot of thoughts, a lot of reviews, a lot of products, good place to hang and check it out. 35 past the hour, longest running sponsor of the show makes a reappearance, and there's new product to talk about. Not a tease for new product. We're actually going to be talking about a brand new product. And that, of course, is the leader of the Barbecue Guru, Bob Trudnak. BBQGuru.com is that website. So looking forward to getting caught up with Bob. And brand new controllers to be talking about. They were filtered out into the public knowledge here a week or two ago. I don't think they're going to be ready to ship here for at least another 3, perhaps 4 weeks, but we'll get all the specifics from Bob, and especially what you can expect as a potential automatic temperature control consumer on these new products and how they would differ from what's currently out on the market, if it's replacing anything, all that good stuff. And we'll be talking about some other barbecue topics with Bob as well. That'll close out the first. We'll turn to the second hour. 14 past the second hour is the other third Tuesday of the month regular guest. That, of course, is the creator of GrillGirl.com, Robyn Lindars. Robyn has been very busy flying to Colorado, quickly flying back home from Florida after they shut that state down. So we'll talk to Robyn about the quick trip back, but perhaps more importantly, how she got back. You know, not many people keeps a private jet like me, if you know what I'm talking about. But every once in a while, we luck out and get to fly on one. Robyn was so lucky yesterday, I believe. Now they're back in Florida. So we'll figure out how that happened. She's also got some recipes for you guys to try out, or at least some suggestions as we start battling through this whole quarantining and sequestering and more staying in your house than getting out of the house, all that stuff. And you have freezers and you have food in freezers. Perhaps you don't typically get into your freezer ever just to pretend like you're going to keep something, but it gets buried, and the only time you end up pulling it out is when you're defrosting the freezer or just trying to throw crap out so you can put more crap in it to eventually get lost. We'll try and reclaim some of that, make sure that it's not lost revenue. Robyn Lindars, 1014. And then helping me close out the show this evening, CEO of Kansas City Barbecue Society, Emily Detweiler. And we'll obviously specifically be talking about how the current state of affairs in this country and the world is affecting competition barbecue, specifically related to KCBS, but I would imagine that there are some other sanctioning bodies that are not necessarily following suit, but picking the brain of the biggest barbecue sanctioning body in the country and in the world. And we'll see what they're recommending, how they're handling cancellations, how they work hand in hand with their contest promoters and organizers, and what their outlook is here over the next couple months. And there's some really big events that are going to be coming up, not necessarily KCBS sanctioned, but of course I think everybody is waiting to hear, perhaps not even if, but when Memphis in May is going to get canceled. That's a huge contest, one of the main ones that everybody's looking to win, regardless of sanctioning body and regardless of when you're going to be putting out the fires in your pit forever. If you could win that one, it's certainly a feather in the cap and one you can talk about all time. So there you go. Stephen Raichlen, Bob Trudnak, Robyn Lindars, Emily Detweiler. If you need them, you can jump in at me, 216-220-0966, or Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. You can follow me socially at bbqcentralshow.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. There is a video feed over on Facebook too. That's /BBQ Central Show if you want to check it out there. So we're locked and loaded. I do want to give a special thanks to Leonard and Jeff from the Baseball and Barbecue podcast for interviewing me last week. I had a ton of fun. Really good interviewers, by the way, so make sure that you check out that podcast, especially if you like baseball and barbecue. I'm very confident in saying that perhaps 50 or 100% of us at least like 50% of that content. Maybe you're not a big baseball person, but if you listen to this show, you're probably a pretty decent fan of barbecue and grilling, so you at least like half the content that Jeff and Leonard are putting out there each and every week. I'm not sure exactly when my particular episode is going to be up, but it was certainly fun to lay down. Again, it's a rare occurrence when the tables are turned on me and I get asked about certain things, the history of the show. I kind of do a little bit of that again. So if you've never heard that kind of an interview, I'll make sure that I keep an ear out, and when they let me know that it's all posted up, I'll shoot out the links. But it's typically available on any of the standard podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, all that stuff. And again, it's called Baseball and BBQ. So go ahead and search that, and you're off and running. Also, ton of email last week, as believe it or not, Smokey made a comeback. Didn't see it coming. Many weeks ago, he called in and said that he couldn't take the fact that Smoke Fire was receiving such a beating, and he was nervous himself. In fact, just gandering at the box of a cooker that had not been put together was causing him to feel a burning sensation, ultimately jumping off the 480 bridge when he called in originally. And then he called in last week as he was putting together a huge influencers party, which was very forward thinking of him. But, geez, it was quite a tale of how he didn't end up making it to the bottom of the 480 bridge, almost cartoonesque in a way. And I got a number of email responses back talking about Smokey making a appearance, asking about how he was able to assemble all of those social media influencers in one location. Number of people thought it was weird how he was only inviting folks that had 10,000 plus influencers to the party, yet himself was sub 20, I believe, last week, as he was on a mission to get to 47. So I haven't checked his numbers to date, but I think he was trending back up more towards 47. And for whatever reason, 47 was a specific number that he wanted to get to, and then he was going to be closing it off altogether there. So Smokey making a reappearance here on this show, crazily. Now, as it happened the first time, I don't know if he'll actually be calling in again, because conveniently there was yet another bridge in his backyard, and he hopped away, and we weren't able to track from there. So if you're a fan of Smokey, as we said last week, we're keeping our best thoughts and our most positive thoughts for the influencer barbecue Smokey, and that's barbecue spelled out, not BBQ, as he so handily mentioned in the call-in last week. If you are wondering, or if you have an Alexa, and I mentioned this many months ago, but I've tested this on many occasions here over the last number of weeks. If you have an Alexa and you want to listen to the show through Alexa command, all you have to do is this. Say, Alexa, and wait till a little blue ring comes on. Say, play the Barbecue Central show on Apple Podcasts. Then it will play the most recent episode. Now, while it's playing, if you don't like what I'm saying and you want to skip ahead 30 seconds, you can say, Alexa, skip ahead 30 seconds, and it will skip ahead 30 seconds. You can also say, Alexa, play the previous episode. So if you have an Alexa in the house, you can just easily queue up the show and listen to it while you're smoking or cooking in the kitchen or outside on the patio/deck. Alexa, play the Barbecue Central show on Apple Podcasts, and the most recent show will jump off. So exciting. Technology is great. Stephen Raichlen is great, and he'll be coming up next. All right. I can't read that now. I'm in the middle of doing the show. Stephen Raichlen coming up. Want to talk to you quickly about Southside Market and Barbecue. Established in 1882, Southside Market is the oldest barbecue joint in Texas. They've been owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations, and they offer premium Central Texas barbecue products. Slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, and manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S., from food trucks to multi-chain restaurants. Southside sausage can be on your menu, too. All meats are processed in the on-site USDA-inspected facility, a trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. Wholesale options available, shipping nationwide via FedEx. You can also get them through food service distribution channels like Cisco US Foods and Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can also follow your recipe or help you develop something brand new from scratch. Private label opportunities also available. If you shop on SouthsideMarket.com, don't forget as you're checking out to add in the 10% off coupon code, which is BBQ Central. All one word, lowercase, BBQ Central. And you can get 10% off your entire order at SouthsideMarket.com. Sausages, barbecue products, other fun trinkets, and so forth. That's SouthsideMarket.com and promo code BBQ Central. That's BBQ CENTRAL. All one word, lowercase, at SouthsideMarket.com. Stephen Raichlen joining me out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils. All of Butcher Barbecue products have been tested on the competition circuit as well as backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your competition circuit or neighborhood. ButcherBBQ.com to stock up. Always trust your butcher. All right, joining me now is a Barbecue Hall of Famer, a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, yes, the author of the perhaps foremost authority on live fire cooking books ever, which would be Barbecue Bible, is Stephen Raichlen, and we're having some issues connecting here, I see. And let's see, Steven is not online. All right, great. I mean, it seems that he was just calling in a second ago, and now he's not here, which is all the more weird because originally he was calling in. There's no way that I've blocked him. There's no way. I would never do that. All right. Well, let's see. We continue to try. But we don't give unlimited tries here because, come on. We have a big show planned. We have lots of stuff to do. Otherwise, we're going to have to go to the telephone. You know what? Screw it. We will go to the telephone. Well, okay, hold on. Here we go. Maybe there was a Skype change. Who knows? Well, indeed there was. Look who's here. Stephen Raichlen is here. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Greg. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm okay.
All right.
Not the happiest times for anybody around the world today.
Stephen, can you recall a time where there has been, man, oh man, I look at it, certainly not barbecue related, but, over the last week, we have seen an incredible progression of thinking of what might happen to fast forward where we are this Tuesday and, here in Ohio, all bars, all restaurants, anything that has to do with more than 10 people gathering here in Ohio or more being canceled. There were political and presidential debates and rallies that were supposed to happen, all canceled. I mean, you name it. Schools are out probably for the rest of the year. And when you read Facebook and you read social media, and perhaps this is where I start to show my old mandedness, which is not a word, but I'm trying to siphon what I should be heeding and what I should be filtering out is this person's opinion who is not necessarily a medical professional. And I'm telling you, it's making my head spin to a point that I've thought about taking breaks from social media for certain periods of time. So, as somebody who travels the world and who's experienced a lot, who knows a lot about a lot of things, what's your take currently on where we're at with this whole coronavirus?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm an early riser. And first thing I do in the morning is I listen to French radio, and then I listen to Italian radio because I have family in France and I got a lot of barbecue buddies in Italy. Then I listen to NPR, which I think is one of the more reliable and less sensationalist news outlets. And I shake my head in wonderment. I mean, last Wednesday, we were planning to pack up and head to San Antonio to tape the next season of Project Fire. And then I learned that Maryland is not letting any of its employees travel. And then, of course, by Friday, it was out of the question that anybody else would think of traveling. And Saturday, I go to my local Whole Foods store, and half the shelves are empty, which is something I just, you don't even see that with hurricanes. The kids are home from school. Restaurants are also closed here. In Miami, they actually closed 10 blocks of Miami Beach. Wow. You can't go on the beach. So it's just unprecedented. And, I work at home. I'm a writer, which is kind of a solitary activity when I'm not teaching or doing TV shows. So I still go to the office because it's a guest house in my backyard. But, for so many people, I mean, our brethren, the chefs, the pit masters, the service people, these are our brothers, and they're out of work, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can. Well, I guess the biggest thing for me. So I have 3 daughters, 18, 17, 14. And
you have an 18-year-old daughter?
Yeah, freshman in college.
Good heavens! Were you? You must have been one of those teenage fathers, huh?
Well, yeah. I'm so youthful looking. I mean, come on, give me a break. the thing that we're contending with. So my wife and I are trying to make sense of what we should be allowing, what we should be disallowing, or being more cautious on. And then when you're 18 and 17 and 14, you're healthy as a horse. You're reading certain things on the internet, and your first reaction is to say, well, it's not going to happen to me. B, if it does happen to me, this is something that I'm just going to be able to weather. It's probably going to be maybe a flu, maybe not even as bad as a flu, maybe a bad cold, and who cares? But there's certainly many different layers that as an 18 or it's very me, as much as we try to get them out of the it's all about me type of thinking and getting into a more global way of thinking. It is, you're right. It's not about you, daughters. And the fact that you'll be able to weather a sickness if you get it. It's what if you get it and then you give it to something like that. To me, that's the whole thing, right? It's you're set up, you can weather this storm if you get sick. But what if you come in contact with somebody who doesn't have the same type of immune system or is older or is compromised, and then you give it to them? They're not afforded the same opportunity, and you don't want to do that. So trying to get them to get into that line of thinking is a challenge, because when school is out, you just want to go hang out and just be a kid and be 18, and you're trying to, not over sensationalize, as you said, but also bring a dose of reality into it. And then every day it's a little bit of a challenge here. So, and that's it. It's a moving target is ultimately what it is. We just don't know how it will turn out here, and it's going to be weeks, perhaps months.
Yeah. I guess what I try I should say what my wife, Barbara, tries to tell me, and I try and remember, is that whatever it is you want to do that seems so important, seeing this person, seeing that person, going to this place, that place, you can do it in 3 months or 6 months. It's not that important. So, but we're also trying to look at, I think it's you're spending more time with your family, running around less. Maybe what seems, that deadline seemed so urgent last week, and now maybe it doesn't seem so urgent anymore. And of course, with this community, it's a good excuse to stay home and grill.
Well, that's right. Meathead was on last week, and he said, there could be a silver lining for the barbecue and grilling industry is that people will stay home and fire up the grills a little bit more often and be honing the live fire skills. So we'll see how that turns out here over the next number of weeks as well. Now, by the way, I didn't know if you knew it or not, but it's St. Patrick's Day, Stephen. We love St. Patrick's Day, of course, big eating day. So are you a fan of either corned beef or pastrami on St. Patrick's Day, or is there an official meat for you?
Well, St. Patrick's Day isn't really my official ethnic day, but I do love corned beef, and I actually have a little trick on corned beef that I would love to share with your listeners. So what I like to do is, you can either corn your own beef, and there's a recipe in Project Smoke, or actually there's a recipe in Brisket Chronicles, or you can buy already corned beef. And then instead of boiling it, I like to cook it low and slow in the smoker. So it's like corned beef channeling brisket. And that is really a fabulous way to celebrate. Of course, I don't think anybody's in really much of a celebratory mood these days. St. Patrick's Day without a St. Patrick's Day parade, without a bar, without, how far can you get with Guinness at home?
Not very far with me. That's I've never been a fan of Guinness for whatever.
Oh,
I've tried it many times, and the one thing that I've realized over the many years, there's been certain things that as a younger me I've tried, and the palate wasn't there. But you get older. I think they say every 10 years the palate changes. And I remember specifically when I went from 29 to 30. That was the year that I was finally able to accept and appreciate wine as I got a little bit older, a little bit more on the spirit side, liquor side versus just, natural light beer or whatever I was drinking in college back in those days where there was no palate whatsoever. So, but Guinness is just one of those things that never seemed to agree with me, even the older that I got.
Well, you said the same thing of caviar 6 months ago or a year ago, and we talked about it. And now you're a caviar hound, so there's always hope.
That's right. We'll keep trying.
Anyway, for all our Irish and Irish American friends, happy St. Patrick's Day. Interestingly, the Irish do not eat corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, what's the dish of choice?
It's more like fresh meat, a pork loin, a pork roast, traditionally corned beef was developed in Ireland, but most of it was sold on the export market, and the Irish, frankly, historically really couldn't afford meat. So if you raised meat, you sold it elsewhere. It's an interesting chapter on that in Brisket Chronicles. I learned a lot. I had a lot of misconceptions about corned beef and the Irish.
The other thing that I saw on the website that I wanted to ask you about, and certainly this was probably the news story of 2019, and it kind of raged over into 2020 as the year turned. This was going to be the year of the fast food chicken sandwich. Popeyes dominated through most of the summer into the fall and close of the year last year. But Stephen Raichlen has a take on a Popeyes chicken sandwich. So what's your recipe? Because we know you wouldn't go to a Popeyes and actually eat a Popeyes chicken sandwich.
I never have been to a Popeyes. I am curious now, but I have this little mantra, and it goes: if something tastes good baked, fried, or sautéed, it probably tastes even better grilled. So, together with Nancy, my assistant, who lives in your hometown.
Yes, I heard she's moving. Is she moving?
She is moving, and not
dear.
only that, she has a healthy pellet grills book coming out. So let's give her a little round of applause too.
No, very good. Way to go, Nancy. Writing chops. Nice to see. You're rubbing off on her.
Yeah, she's great. But anyway, so we kind of cooked up, as it were, this idea to reconstruct that Popeyes chicken breast, and we kind of we deconstructed the seasonings, and we used the seasonings and the buttermilk almost as a brine, and then we grill the chicken breast. And it's, it has about 1/10 as much fat as the Popeyes version. And you get all those spices and flavorings and smoke directly on your palate without having to wade through, 6 layers of deep fried batter. So I think it's a pretty awesome sandwich. And I'm really proud of that.
Is there a specific smoke that you're looking to put on the chicken? Is a hickory work for you, or is it more of a fruity lightwood?
I guess I think that the variety of wood does not make a huge discernible amount of difference unless it's mesquite, which is a very strong bitter flavor. But for the sake of poetry, a fruit wood, let's go with a cherry or an apple.
All right. Sounds good. We're talking with Stephen Raichlen. BBQBible.com is his website. Just to cut back to the TV show that you were talking about. So that is currently on hold for a new season?
We are hoping to reschedule in the late spring or early summer. But, it's what's going to happen is everybody's guess. But when we come through the other end of this, we want to be stronger, and people aren't going to stop grilling. So hopefully we'll be back on. I think we're shooting for a Labor Day launch now.
All right. And not to back up again, but BBQ University, is that still on for now?
Well, BBQ University is still on for now.
Okay.
And we'll be advised. We're watching the situation closely. I think a lot of my activities are going to wind up getting pushed to the fall, but you know what? The fall is a beautiful time for that too. I think the most important thing now is for all of us to stay home, stay safe, follow the advice. By the way, I just telling this to everybody, my friends, everybody I know, lay in some food and lay in non-perishable food, because who knows what's going to happen.
No doubt. Let's talk about barbecue terms or acronyms. Some of them are acronyms, some of them are terms. And I'm constantly getting new listeners. They're novices here into the industry, and people kind of throw around terms once you're steeped in the culture, just like we throw around normal slang here in everyday life. So let's go over some terms here. I'll give them to you. You can kind of explain them for everybody, especially if you're kind of new. First thing is called blue smoke.
Yes. Well, blue smoke refers to the color of a well-oxygenated fire. And if you look at the smokestack of a smoker that is really fine-tuned, you got the airflow right, it will be a very, very pale, wispy, almost transparent smoke. That means you're burning a clean fire. If you see billowy clouds of white or black, that is not a clean fire. It's either oxygen starved, or you've got wet wood, or you've got too much bark. So that's blue smoke. It's also the name of a barbecue restaurant and jazz club in New York, which sadly now is shuttered for the moment.
The next term is a term, I guess, called curing, and I know you do some of this.
Yes. So curing is basically preserving meat and altering its flavor and texture by generally either adding salt or a curing salt like sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. This process of curing, remember, for virtually all of human history except the last 100 years, we didn't have refrigeration. We didn't have freezing. So we developed methods to preserve food, and very often that involves salting, curing and smoking, salting and smoking. And if you think about the great meats, pastrami, if you think about corned beef, if you think about bacon, if you think about jerky, these are all start with curing.
Here's a great term, and it sounds really gross at the same time. Hot guts. What are hot guts?
Hot guts are beef sausage from Texas.
And if you haven't had them, I mean, they are really good, especially if you get it from, like I've had hot guts from Southside Market, which happens to be a sponsor of my show. I mean, these are some of the best beef sausages that you can get. Sounds weird, but they are a taste delight.
Oh, they're fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Peppery, smoky, crackling, crusty casing. Man, you're making me hungry all over again.
Cadillac or Hollywood cut. Now, I've only heard this term a few times. It's almost a term that's kind of fallen out of style to a certain degree. I used to hear it all the time in competition, but what does it mean?
Okay, so imagine you have a rack of ribs and you're eating at home. You would normally just cut the ribs, cut between the ribs and between the little joint and the bone, so that everybody got a rib that kind of had bone with meat on both sides. What you do with the Cadillac cut is you cut the rib so that you're getting very close to the bone on the left, very close to the bone on the right, so that the rib you're going to present to the judges in the center has an extra, what's like a double wide meat.
And it's a treat. You might lose a little bit, or some people say it's like every other bone or whatever it is, but I think if you're putting together a presentation, Cadillac cut is the way to go. Last one before I let you go tonight, and you can find the rest of these over at barbecuebible.com. Shiggin'. What is that?
Yeah, so shigging is, and actually this was a new one for me. Nancy brought this one to the table, but it's when you go to volunteer for a barbecue team, and your actual goal is to learn and steal trade secrets from the team. That's called shigging.
That's right. So if you're looking to grab a few tidbits, you're known as shiggin', and that's funny. Again, all the rest of these terms can be found at barbecuebible.com, and you can find Stephen Raichlen right here on the third Tuesday of every month. Stephen, wish you health, wish you safety, and we'll look for you again next month.
Thank you, and everybody listening out there, be safe, and we'll talk to you next month.
All right, there he is, Stephen Raichlen, Barbecue Hall of Famer right there. And you can find him over at barbecuebible.com. And he is hanging out. I forgot to ask him what was behind him. I think we've answered that question before in past shows. And I got to tell you, when I'm looking at myself and my feedback on video, the top of my hair looks like I'm some creepy old dude who just took a black shoe polish and just whipped it right over the top of my head. I don't know why it looks like that. It's bizarre. And then I got the white outside. Oh, it's a bad look. I mean, the whole thing's a bad look. This is extremely weird. I thought it was because I was working out and maybe my DNA on the top of my head was turning back on, but, you know, who are you kidding? I'm not kidding myself. It's probably not what happened. All right, let me talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers. One-stop online shop for all things barbecue. They have rubs and seasonings, 13, by the way, if you're trying to count. Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak Rub, Desert Gold, Regular Money, dare I say, Happy Ending. Oh, yeah, gotta love it. They also have a great relationship with Simply Marvelous Barbecue Rubs. If you put Big Papa's and Simply Marvelous together, you are now running what they call the West Coast offense. Many teams are doing it. They love it. They also own a great barbecue sauce company called Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce or you're sick of what is currently out there, go ahead and give Granny's a try. It's traditional. It's got powerful flavors. Reminds you of why you fell in love with barbecue in the first place, right? Of course. And you know they're selling grills. They got the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill. Exclusive Mac dealer is Big Papa Smokers. They offer special packages. Nobody else does that. They got the Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal trailer on, or it's the only competition. Jeez, little Pete. It's the only charcoal cooker on Big Papa's competition trailer. If you want to ask questions about what you should get, you call them at 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop the website bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. Bob Trudnak from the BBQ Guru is set to join me. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
You know, I have a whole thing at the top of the second hour that I have to remember. John, send me an email and remind me to talk about Mountain Rushmore. This segment is brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also buy on amazon.com if you would like to. That's cookinpellets.com. My next guest, highly accomplished in the pitmaster world, the businessman, photographer, the list goes on and on. Also, the longest-running sponsor of this show. If you have a ceramic or bullet or kettle-style cooker, you probably have one of these beauties as well. We hit the hotline. And welcome back, friend of the show, Bob Trudnak. Hey, Bob.
Hey, what's going on, Greg?
Bob, I am so excited to get caught up with you here. First and foremost, what is happening over at the BBQ Guru as it relates to everyday business, considering the environment we're in right now?
Yeah, tough times.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we've taken steps to bring most of our employees back into their homes. We're all working from home, including myself. We do have a very limited staff there. Some things that need to be done in the office, some shipping, some building and production. But other than that, everybody's, we're taking the right steps. We're making sure the place is clean. We're all up and running from home. We're able to take orders, build product, and keep everybody safe.
Bob, we're similar in kids as well, kind of in that same age range. So with kids being out of school, there doesn't seem to be any end in sight, or by end, I mean a school resuming session. What are your kids asking you? And, are they like my kids where they're just like, hey, school's out, let's just go out, we're strong, we're healthy, who cares if we get it, and we're just going to push forward, and you guys got to corral them in the house? How's it going for you?
Well, we've had a lot of talks with the kids. I have a 19-year-old daughter who's in college, 14-year-old son who's in middle school. And, we've just been trying to educate them and explain the seriousness of it, but keeping them calm at the same time. So they do know the seriousness of things. They do want to get out there. They don't want to be holed up, but at the same time, they have to know their limits. So going for a walk in the park, keeping distant, Mighty Mitch and I will go out there and shoot hoops for a couple hours. Maddie's baking cookies. We're playing some Wii tonight. We're trying to keep them entertained. We're trying to keep things happy, calm, but just, understanding the seriousness of this.
Bob Trudnak joining me here on the show. BBQGuru.com is the website, of course. So before we talk about the new controllers, Bob, can we just, back it up here just for a couple minutes? When you talk about the BBQ Guru, it is really kind of a staple and an icon in our industry. And as you look back of how this whole thing started, there was a gentleman by the name of Fred Pirkle, or Shotgun Fred, as many of us knew him coming up here. And originally he was, I guess, tasked by a customer of his through the Thermal Megatech side who had a smoker and said, hey, you do this stuff on the business end, you probably could do something to help me with my airflow and temperature regulation on my barbecue pit. And Fred, being the engineering type that he was, put something perhaps a little bit more rudimentary than we see now together. And thusly, the BBQ Guru was kind of more or less born at that point, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. We had a customer who was buying our industrial valves. He was a ship's engineer down in Florida. He had a ceramic grill. He called us. He was buying some of our valves for the ship, and that's exactly what happened. He said, "Hey, did you ever think about doing something with this technology for a charcoal grill?" And God, as soon as Fred got into that conversation, which probably ended up being a 5-hour conversation, knowing Fred, he had the drawings going, and we sat down in the lunchroom, and he had our machine shop guys and designers and engineers working on something pretty amazing.
Since then, obviously, ALS ends up taking Fred, and he was a fighter till the end. You've also done a competition down, I believe it's in Huntsville, Texas, if I'm not mistaken, for the last, I believe, 7 years or so. Significance of the competition itself, and then I guess as you are down there and taking part, what kind of stories or general sentiment are you getting about a guy by the name of Fred Pirkle?
I'll tell you, it's amazing. Fred always wanted a barbecue contest in his name, and the guys down there in Huntsville, Texas, his buddies, his friends, people who never knew him even, who have just heard stories through Ben Pruitt, Shelby Ralston, and all the guys who did know Fred, put so much time and effort and energy into making the Shotgun Fred Showdown just an amazing contest. And what I've been able to do, and fortunate enough to do, is, teach classes, teach the kids. So, Sam Houston State is right there, and there's some guys, Scott Whitehead. He works well with the college kids and trying to bring them into the barbecue and teach them about Fred, about his legacy, about the just who he was, and try to teach them competition barbecue. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to help teach these kids how to do a competition. And it's just been an amazing experience. I will be a part of this as long as it goes on, and I hope it goes on long after I'm done.
No doubt about it. Bob Trudnak joining me here on the show. All right, so let's talk some business here, Bob. We have some new controllers. As I had mentioned in the open of the show, they were unrolled or perhaps unveiled a week or two ago. As far as getting your hands on them, we still got a little bit of time. But for the folks that aren't aware, let's talk about the new controller, the name, what they can expect, and perhaps is it usurping something out of the product line, or is this just a controller add to the portfolio?
Okay, so I'm super excited about the two new controls. They've been a long time coming, and they are the DynaQ and the UltraQ. And what we've done is we are taking the PartyQ out of the product line. We're taking the CyberQ Cloud out of the product line. We're keeping the DigiQ manual control. It's been our flagship for years. That has one pit and one food. But the DynaQ is a Bluetooth version of that. So there's one pit, one food. There's an app, a Bluetooth app that we've developed. It's very intuitive, very easy to use, and it's just extremely fun. And one of the things we've done with both the DynaQ and UltraQ is I developed this light ring. It was a concept that kind of came to me in the early development stages of the new products. And it was based on Shotgun Fred's original design in the DigiQ, where the display would give a pulse when the fan runs. And it would pulse as the fan runs only. So if it pulsed full time, the fan was running full time. That means it was coming up to temperature. If it just pulsed every, 6 seconds or so, you knew it was at temperature. So at a glance, it was nice to be able to look out and just see that fan is pulsing, or it's pulsing full time and you know what's going on. So from there, I took it to a color code, cool blue, for when it's coming up to temperature. And then when it gets within range of your temperature, within a certain amount of degrees, it'll turn red, that light ring around the control. So now when the fan pulses, the sides will give that little pulse, just kind of like that little, okay, we're at temperature. We're going to pulse every so many seconds to let you know we're at temperature. And then if anything happens where the pit would go over temperature, the whole ring around the control would just pulse constant red. And that lets you know you're over temperature. So for example, you light the cooker, you're coming up to temperature, you look out, 20 minutes later, you're still cool blue. You're not quite up to temperature yet. Once that turns red and you get the pulsing, you're at temperature. So at a glance throughout the cook, you can see I'm at temp. Say 6 hours, 7 hours into the cook, it turns cool blue again. That means the pit's cooling down. Well, that can be you're running out of charcoal. The pit's cooling down, so you go out and check things out. So on top of all that at a glance, if you have your phone on you, or an iPad or a computer or whatever, then you have this beautiful app, very easy to use app that you can set temperatures, you can maintain temperatures, you can change temperatures. So the DynaQ uses the Bluetooth end of the app, and the UltraQ, which is comparable to our cloud control, 1 pit, 3 food, that's either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
So basically, UltraQ is going to be the high level, and the DynaQ is more or less replacing the Party Q, and UltraQ replacing the what's it called?
Cloud.
The cloud. Yes.
The BBQ Cloud.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And you have more monitoring options with UltraQ.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the UltraQ actually has a big bright red display on it. And the DynaQ is made to use app only, but we have the light ring. So even at a glance, without seeing a temperature, I can tell that I'm under temperature, at temperature, or over temperature using that light ring.
When can we can obviously order it now, but when can consumers expect it to be showing up?
So we're hoping it's going to be about in a 4-week period. We're working hard to get them produced, to get them in boxes, to get them shipped. So roughly 4 weeks. I can't give you an exact date. I know there's always something I can't tell you on this show.
Is that what it is? I mean, that's really not that big of a deal. Usually you got something major in the works that you conveniently can't tell me about.
I know. Now, this time I can tell you everything. But as far as I know, it'll be, roughly 4 weeks. We're super excited about it. And we also have this beautiful stand. It's like a, 5-in-1 stand. And our engineers have put a lot of time into this so that you can set it up in so many different situations. Check it out on our site, BBQGuru.com.
And when you are hooked into the UltraQ and you're using the Wi-Fi portion, is this a matter of you could be at a grocery store or somewhere where as long as you have internet connectivity and you launch the app, you have the ability to monitor and adjust as you see fit?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you're going to be, within, at your house, at a barbecue competition, you're going to use Bluetooth, right? So you're going to be somewhere close. But if you're going to like to cook in the morning, you're going to be off running around, you're going to go to work, whatever you're doing, set it up in Wi-Fi mode, and you can change temperatures from wherever you are.
And easy enough to set up, right?
Super easy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's super easy. I've been working from home here, and I have a Ultra Q sitting on my desk right now, and I'm just sitting here playing with it, beta testing, getting some fires lit, defrosting some meat out of the freezer. You know, I got a couple weeks here to play around with it, so very easy to use.
What are we looking at price point wise?
The DynaQ package, you know, with the universal adapter and the pit piper, will come in around $214, and it'll vary with each adapter. It could be a little less than that. And the Ultra Q, $329 or less, depending on the adapter you have.
Let's talk quickly about what these can run on. As I had mentioned before, ceramic cookers, of course, bullet style cookers, of course, but is there a size of, let's say, offset that it can't accommodate, or you should think about, you know, not either getting one or trying to see if there's some other kind of product? Can you use it on a 36 or a 48-inch type of cooker?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, in this neck of the woods, Meadow Creeks are very popular.
Sure.
They have, you know, tank smokers. They have the 250 to 500. You know, what's great about our controls is we have adapters for every cooker imaginable. And if we don't have it, we'll build it. And then these controls can run 2 of our 25 CFM fans. So you can put 2 adapters into your firebox and run 2 fans side by side. So yeah, we run them on big offset cookers all the time.
All right. So let's say, for instance, you had a Lang 36-inch. You could put one fan, because there's pinwheels on opposite sides of the firebox. So you could put one on one side, one on the other, or would you need 2 fans to run that type of a firebox? Could you get away with one?
On the 36, you would just need one 25 CFM fan.
Wow.
Yeah, I would. You know, I think we have some guys running them on 72s, and they use 2 fans. So what you would do is you would leave the dampers closed. Don't mess with the dampers. You're going to drill 2 1 3/8 holes in the firebox. You can either do that about 5-6 inches apart on one side, or you could run them on opposite sides. But you know, if you have wires and you have fans sticking out, I tend to like to put them both on the same side of the firebox.
Sure.
Put them about 5-6 inches apart, 1 inch below the fire grate, so you're getting air flowing in under the fire. That's the best location for the fan.
Perfect. All right. So if anybody's been concerned or wondering if you can use it on a stick burner of any side, of course you can. And of course, if you have any questions, you call 800-288-GURU and you ask all your questions, and customer service will make sure that they get all those questions answered, and they steer them in the right product suggestion, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else new or coming up? Obviously, this is where I would normally ask you about the competition season, but I would assume that's going to be on hold here for the foreseeable months ahead as well. So anything from a business side, or what about sauces and rubs that might be coming to market?
Oh, funny you should mention that. Yeah, I'm always trying to grow my sauce and rub business too. So that's barbecue Bob's, right? Having a barbecue.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to announce that I am almost ready. I mean, I'm actually ready. I just want to see if my co-packer's ready. But my co-packer and I have been working very close to develop my new steak and burger seasoning that I named after my beautiful daughter, Maddie. I call it Mad Maddie's Steak and Burger Seasoning. And that's like a buttery garlic, you know, salt, pepper, kind of a whiter seasoning. I mean, I call it a steak and burger because it's so good on steaks and burgers, but really it goes well on anything. We put it on veggies. We're putting it on roasted potatoes, anything we can get our hands on. And then Mighty Mitch's wing sauce. You know, that's been another recipe that I've had for quite a long time that I've been tweaking here and there. You know, Mitch has been a wing freak, you know, most of his life. And he's always wanted me to try, you know, bring home different wing sauces, hot sauces for him to try. So this was neat because I got to develop a wing sauce that uses my original barbecue sauce in it. So the best way to describe it would be, you know, kind of it's a buffalo sauce that has a touch of tang from the barbecue, that has some honey and garlic in it. And it's just a real unique flavor, but it's a real familiar flavor at the same time. So yeah, I'm just very excited to announce those 2 flavors.
All right, and they're going to be coming out soon, correct?
Yeah. The recipes are ready. The labels are ready, and it's just a matter of, putting them into production. But, I want everyone to be safe out there, and we're going to kind of let this thing pass, and we're going to get these out on the market as soon as possible.
All right, new controllers are ready for order. You should have them in your hands 4 weeks or so, but we're not committing at this point. DynaQ is the first one. Ultra Q is the second one. So hit up bbqguru.com and get your orders in now, and then be on the lookout for the Having a Barbecue new steak and burger rub and the wing sauce as well. This is Bob Trudnak. And again, Bob, always appreciate catching up with you and talking about barbecue and grilling and the support of the show. I mean, geez, we've been doing it live for 12 years now, and you've been a part of even the podcast back pretty much since day one, too. So probably 14, 15 years that we have been chatting, and you guys have been supporting the show. It's absolutely appreciated. Nobody's been a bigger supporter of the show, Bob, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, I'm proud to do it. It's always been great to work with you. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, I know, but it has been. Well, all right, there he is, Bob Trudnak, and visit him at bbqguru.com. Thanks, Bob.
All right, take care.
You got it. There he is, Bob Trudnak. And oh, man, 14 years. Holy moly. Can you believe it? Of course you can. Most of you have been listening that long, being entertained by the likes of me and my guests, mostly my guests. So we got DynaQ and Ultra Q. DynaQ is taking the place of Party Q, which was the easiest point of entry. Again, around $214. Not too bad. And Ultra Q around $329. Ultra Q does have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity and more ports for your measurements. But if you just want something to run single fan, single probe, DynaQ is the one you're going to want to hook up with. So get your pre-orders in now, and you will see them in about 4 weeks or so. BBQ Guru, man, they're continuing to be the breakthroughers of barbecue technology. bbqguru.com or 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. We're back to wrap up the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or Bluetooth if you want, Alexa or Google Assistant capable if you want to use one, both, or either. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com, 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. Again, fireboard.com. All right, we are getting ready to head out. Got to be able to make sure I can tell you about something here in the second hour as I'm racing to get those files up. We thank Bob Trudnak again from the BBQ Guru for joining me and learning about the new stuff. DynaQ, Ultra Q. So if you've been waiting for something new from the BBQ Guru because you have all the other products and you just want to add the latest and greatest, you're in luck. If you've just gotten into this thing and you've heard about the BBQ Guru or just talking to somebody about it yesterday, this will be something you want to check out. Second hour is coming up. We're ready. We're locked. We're loaded. Stick around. Be right back.
This is Jim Minion from Two Loose Screws. I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener. Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. Oh my God, 60 Minutes has come and gone. Just like that, Bob Trudnak was most recently on. And before that, Stephen Raichlen, Barbecue Bible, Barbecue Hall of Famer. I did want to tell Bob, too, that I think Fred Pirkle, and I have made nominations for Fred Pirkle to get into the Barbecue Hall of Fame, because when you look at the landscape, especially from a business perspective, and I know they're not doing categories anymore, they haven't for a couple of years, but Fred Pirkle should be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame, bar none. If anybody should be in, Fred Pirkle should be in. What he created, how it has taken off, how it was poo-pooed on originally, and now has really cemented itself as the tool of choice of convenience for not only competition cookers, but for backyard folks as well. Barbecue Guru, second to none, all thanks to Fred Pirkle. So I will continue to nominate him until Fred is given his just due, although it would have to be posthumously at this point. Nevertheless, he should be in. Thank you, John. I got the reminder. Still to come on this show, you will find Robyn Lindars in about 12 minutes from now. You will find Emily Detweiler after that. You can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Facebook /BBQ Central Show. Wait. At BBQ Central Show, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat /BBQ Central Show on Facebook. I think I got that mixed up somewhere. A lot of places to go. Facebook also has the live video feed as well, also on YouTube, audio only on TuneIn, if you would rather do that. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, episode 116. And episode 116 takes you all the way back to March 30th, 2010, in what was affectionately referred to at that point as the After Dark segment. That's when we got rowdy, everybody. Oh, we really threw away. We took all the seatbelts off. We started driving cars 100 miles an hour, whiskey fueled and cocaine high, ready to rock. All the censors came off. No FCC regulation on the internet because there isn't any. We swore. We MF'd. That's swearing. But that was the After Dark segment. Really, the After Dark segment was a test to see if I thought I could push a 1-hour show into a 2-hour show. And by the third or fourth month of After Dark, I realized that it was gaining in popularity. The show was gaining in popularity. And again, this was 10 years ago, 2010. We had the one and only Chris Lilly, and we just had a general discussion about barbecue and him and business 10 years ago, almost to the day. We're probably a week and a half out to the day. But March 30th, 2010, in an After Dark segment, you can find me having a candid conversation with Chris Lilly where we take the gloves off and get after it. And there will be a whole link to that show as well. So if the After Dark does it for you. And remember, the goal of the After Dark is to just wet the proverbial barbecue and grilling whistle of the Barbecue Central show and get you to click and rerun the whole show. You know, there was not only the After Dark, there was a whole other hour of show with succulent guests that you may be missing out on. You don't want to be missing out on succulent guests. It's the worst. We thank John Solberg for putting those together. Now I have to go back and do this real quick. So in the first hour, you heard this, and we have sprinkled a few new what you call rejoins in the business. So after I get done doing a read, there's a 10, 15-second break, depending on my setup, where you don't see anything, you just hear music, and then the voice guy comes in and reintroduce you or rejoins the show between the read, the transition, and now we're back in the show. That's called the rejoin. So I had him ramp me up 4 new rejoins for the show, and this was one of it. I don't know if you caught this or not, but we'll go through on why this happened.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now,
Did you hear that? Let me run that back.
Talk show entertainment.
Hold on.
Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central show.
So anytime I can have my name said by that guy, Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, in case you missed it.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment.
Here's the problem. When you are, it's not a problem. I'm warning you. If you are aspiring to host your own podcast and you want to have the Lee Monster do your voice work and be your really big voice guy, which is attainable because I'm doing it. The one thing that you have to understand, and it is critical, voiceover talent, the very best voiceover talent in the country, and David Lee is one of the premier voiceover talents in the country. Robert Moss is also one of them. There's a handful of others. But the fact that anybody has access to David Lee, and anybody does, you just have to send him an email and work with him. Here's what you have to remember. The very best voiceover professionals do what? A, have a really great voice. Number 2, and perhaps more importantly, read anything you put in front of them. Exactly how you script it. And if you're doing it on something that will autocorrect and you don't go back through it and reread it 15 times to ensure accuracy and you just send it off, the finished product that you get back is going to sound great, but it's also going to sound or read exactly as you sent it to him. So when I went back to my script that I had sent to David and was thinking to myself, well, that can't be right. That can't be right. Who would say the Mountain Rushmore of talk radio? Mountain Rushmore? Nobody's ever said it's Mount Rushmore. He's made an error. Well, quickly I pulled up my script, and for whatever damn reason, in black and white, Mountain Rushmore. I've been duped myself. I did myself wrong. However, the one thing, it does sound okay. I mean, listen to, how many times have you ever heard anybody refer to it as the Mountain Rushmore? I mean, that is pretty neat, right?
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment.
But you have to
now,
figure
let's get back
that one of the preeminent voiceover guys is cutting my demo. I can't even believe he does it anyway. And he's reading it just like he should. And he's saying, the Mountain Rushmore. And then he hits stop on the record. And the first thing out of his mouth has got to be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? What? Mountain Rushmore? This has to be a mistake. You know what? That's how he wrote it. I'm the professional. I read what they put in front of me. Fuck you. I'm going to go make my next $100 and I move on. Because that's what voiceover professionals do. They read exactly what you put in front of them. So that is my cautionary tale to you. Although, 2020 being hindsight, and as Diane Me is saying in the chat room, it does sound more majestic. It does separate. But it is incredibly incorrect. It's Mount Rushmore. Nobody calls whatever it is in whatever Dakota Mountain Rushmore. No kid has ever said, Dad, are we going to go see Mountain Rushmore this summer over break? Can we go to Mountain Rushmore? Mountain Rushmore sounds like a ski resort in Colorado, not where all the heads of presidents are chiseled out of stone. So if you're going to hire voiceover talent, do your own homework and make sure that you are reading for grammar and making it sound. What you should do is read it out loud like you're the voiceover guy, and that way you'll catch all of your errors. Don't rely on yourself to just read. Say it out loud. That's why I practice talking in my car all the time. But to be completely contradictory, Mountain Rushmore, as Diane says, does sound way more majestic than Mount Rushmore. It's got a little bit more cachet to it, a little more panache. Mountain Rushmore. Robyn Lindars coming up out of the break. Hey, Green Mountain Grills is here to save your pellet ass. That's right. Hey, Captain Ron, Green Mountain Grills. You want to talk about them? I do. 2 lines to choose from, a choice line, a prime line. Choice will save you some bucks. It's not Wi-Fi capable. But if you want to save a few dollars, you want to put a decent-sized cooker in the backyard without some of the tech, just a reliable cooker. I have 2 on my back patio right now, a Jim Bowie and Daniel Boone both. So lots of capacity for me. Now, if you want a little more tech, if you want Wi-Fi connectivity, if you want a sweet-looking app that's real easy to use and hook up, that also has Wi-Fi capability. So if you want to get out away from the house, you can monitor, make adjustments. The Prime line is the one you're going to want to take a look at. 2 internal meat probes if you want them. Peeking windows on the pellet hopper, on the main cooking chamber. It's built a little bit more sturdily. Is that a word? And it's got the 12-volt power technology. Choice line does not have that, just regular plug-in. Now, the 12-volt, as we learned a couple weeks ago, really hones in the spins on the fan efficiency, so you're more efficient on the pellet consumption. The temperature is dialed in a little bit more, plus you have the ability to move the deflector shield left and right a little bit to really dial in that internal temperature of the pit as well. Lots of different cool things that are going on with the Prime, but again, if you don't want to step up to Prime, that's fine. Choice is going to be right up your alley. By the way, the Jim Bowie, the Daniel Boone in the Choice line is, just sub $500. I don't know if it gets any better than that. Perfect cooker. Plus, with the Jim Bowie and the Daniel Boone pizza oven insert compatible, well, you got to get one of those. And then they have the Davy Crockett, which is your portable one, the breeder of 12-volt technology, or leader, or first, or whatever you want to call it. GreenMountainGrills.com is the place to go. Find a dealer, go visit them, learn all about them. They'll answer all your questions, and you can buy from your dealer. They also have accessories that you can buy right there on Green Mountain Grills' website, GreenMountainGrills.com. Continued thanks to Jason Baker and the gang over at GMG for their support of the show as well. Jason was at the Hearth Patio and Barbecue. Jason now in self-quarantine. He said so in a private text message that I was not going to share, but I just did it. We're back with the Grill Girl right after this. Stick around.
monthly visits from a killer hog, a cooking guy, a man named Meathead, the author of Barbecue Bible, a grill girl, a bristly barbecue journalist, and the malfeasance of the barbecue world known as the embedded correspondents. Only found right here on the Barbecue Central Show.
That's right, and this portion being brought to you by Smithfield. Head over to smithfield.com throughout the grilling season for recipes as well as tips and tricks from world champs like Chris Lilly, Darren Worth, Ernest Cervantes, and Childs Cridlin. You get mouth-watering flavor with no artificial ingredients. Smithfield's fresh pork is quite simple. Some of the finest pork that money can buy. It is the trusted choice of world champion pitmasters for use in competitions and in your backyard. So head over to smithfield.com. Why don't you? Hey, it's the third Tuesday of the month, and not only does that bring a visit from Stephen Raichlen, it also brings a visit from Robyn Lindars, the grill girl. Hey, Robyn. How are you? Good to see you. You have, you're back in Florida, I guess, right?
Yes, back home, back in the warm weather, which is hopefully good for this little thing we're going through right now.
Who knows what's going on? So, what I found interesting is, and we were talking a little bit offline earlier, we were set to go, my family was set to go to Daytona 2 days from now. So this coming Thursday, we were supposed to fly down. And basically, we had gotten to a point where we had originally set to go to Daytona to watch Bobby play her first college volleyball tournament back last September. And, of course, that was ruined because of the damn hurricane. Well, we couldn't go then because of the hurricane, but now all this time was elapsing, and they called and said, hey, you got to use these tickets, otherwise you're going to lose them. So we reset to go down, and now we have coronavirus, so can't go now.
We need to just have a redo, and you just come visit me in Florida instead.
I mean, it appears nobody wants us to come down. Mother Nature is against us. Disease is against. I mean, these are two very powerful things, so we might start taking the hint. However, the Lindars clan, little more bold. You saw things that were going on. You still, fuck it. We're going to go over to this Colorado, have a little ski trip, but didn't go as planned, right? I mean, why go in the first place? What happened?
I don't know. I just don't think that we realized it was quite as bad as it had gotten. Think about the past 3 days. I feel like everything's just kind of gone like apeshit crazy. Yeah. And I think when we left, we didn't realize that things were getting kind of nuts. And then when we got there, and that was Saturday, and when we got there, by the time we got there Saturday afternoon, the governor had shut down all the resorts via an executive order. So we were like, oh shit, okay, what are we going to do? And then by Sunday, things were continuing to slow down, and they're sending like Amber Alerts on your phone about not congregating. And then by Monday, everything was really starting to close down, and we were trying to get home early because you just don't want to get stuck anywhere. And then I guess they were kind of experiencing an outbreak because spring break, right, which is what we were doing. Yeah. And then Florida's kind of experiencing the same thing. So in hindsight, I feel like we should not have gone anywhere because we kind of exposed ourselves to probably a lot of extra people we didn't need to by going to the airport. But by Saturday morning, it didn't seem like to the kind of the level of seriousness that it is now. So I'm just happy to be home.
And like when you're at the place, were you somewhat distant from other people? Like, was it pretty scantily populated?
No, it was gangbusters busy. Which, so I don't know if you guys saw my story, but like when we got to the Denver airport, it was packed. And I was like, holy shit, there's no virus here. I mean, at least no one seemed to be bothered by it, Right. I guess I should say that. But I mean, it was packed people leaving because I guess spring break, right? And then when we got there, I think things were starting to kind of hit a point where, they were kind of experiencing, like figuring out that maybe they need to just get everybody home and get everybody quarantined that was in that county, like all the ski resort counties. And yeah. So now I feel like it wasn't smart to go, but now we know. And we were there long enough to do some cross-country skiing and for Hunter to go sledding and run into a tree. I was actually just chatting. Yeah, I was just texting with the doctor because I just want to, ensure that he doesn't have a broken nose. And, we got checked out by a doctor before we left to make sure he didn't have a concussion. Because, I think it's not good to fly with a concussion.
Well,
so.
I mean, Sonny Bono had a terrible run-in with a tree skiing, and that was it for him. Like, he died. He died doing that. So trees and sledding and skiing, very, very dangerous. So he's probably lucky that he just got busted up a little bit and nothing more serious.
I know. And I think when you have a boy too, they're so balls to the wall, I don't know.
Kids are resilient. I mean, younger. I mean, they're kind of rubbery, so they can bounce off of trees and, fall out of second-story windows. And they really don't even break anything. They just kind of cave in a little bit. Eventually it pops out. No big deal, right?
Well, I mean, like yesterday when it happened, they come in, everything's like there's blood everywhere. And when we found a doctor to come visit, and because they had shut the sledding hill down, so Scott just took Hunter like behind our condo, like just like, okay, we're gonna go skiing, and then we're gonna get the flock out of here, because we had a ride home. We're like, yeah, and then it's like he went from a green to a double black somehow on a sled, and the doctor pulled like a little twig out of his nose, and yeah, it's just never a dull moment these days.
No doubt. Well, speaking of never a dull moment, you quickly gloss over Caught a Ride Home, yay. But I think you were riding back on a Bombardier Global 550, if my keen eye. I mean, how do you hook up with that ride? I mean, that is one of the premier private jets.
Holy shit, can you believe it, Greg?
I think that was so jealous.
I didn't even realize at the time. We were just so happy to like get out of town because we thought we were going to like be stuck there and not be able to get home because they started like even cutting off like Ubers and ride shares.
Yeah, right.
So, let's get the flock out of here. Well, my brother and sister-in-law were in Vail at the same time. Clearly, my husband and his sister love to ski, and so they were going home on their scheduled day. And somehow my brother-in-law's boss caught wind that he was flying home, and he was like, wait a second, what? You're flying home out of the Denver airport? Like that Peachtree Dish? Like, no. And he was like, I'll just send my jet. And because he's like a billionaire.
Yeah.
So,
who isn't?
Sick money that I'll never see, in my lifetime. And we were like, oh, cool. You have a jet? Do you happen to have room for 3 more?
Probably 15 more, the size of that jet.
I mean, it was freaking crazy. So we're like, yeah, we got to ride home. And it's a private jet. That's fucking awesome. Yeah. And then it was like, boom, Hunter hits tree. Then we find a doctor to come visit us. Then we're like, hey, thanks for checking our kid out. We're going to try to get to the airport.
No doubt. We got to get out of here quickly. Wow. So then you make it all the way back to Florida, and now you're just so are you doing any kind of social distancing at this point, or more brash quarantining because of what you were doing travel-wise, or no?
Yeah, and now we're like, what were we thinking traveling? And so Scott made a sign, like he printed it out, and it looks very official, and it's like, stop, we've been traveling, we're self-quarantining, just call us. Because, Amazon, everything, we get a shitload of packages like most people do these days. We just want to be safe, and it's been really hard to keep Hunter away from his bestie next door. But I think for everyone, I mean, that's the goal, is I mean, who knows what our risk of exposure was? Hopefully it was pretty minimal, but you just never know, and it's better safe than sorry. Like, we're fine, but we could be carriers. And like, we have a lady next door, the grandma of Hunter's bestie. She's like 80 something and has like congestive heart failure. So something like this could totally kill her. So you just have to think about being smart. Right. And so that's what we're trying to do. And even Florida has really shut everything down because we're a big tourism state, and everybody was down here for spring break at the beaches. And that's how, you pass stuff around. So just trying to hunker down, and there's lots of meat in my freezer.
Well, so for those people that are practicing self-quarantine or social distancing, or not going to go out, and support the restaurants that are doing carry-out only, and I think you do want to consider that if you've been a patron and sitting in a restaurant, but they're still doing carry-out. You probably want to support. That's really an industry that is in the midst of incredible turmoil right now, because they do rely on the public to show up, and everybody makes a living off the people showing up and eating there. So support if you can. Your restaurant's your favorite, of course. But if you're going to be home, you have this thing called a freeze. And as I had said in the open, freezer to me is French for I'm going to put it here and I'm probably going to lose it and it's going to get buried by other stuff that I want to save. And then that stuff is going to get buried by other stuff that I want to save. And you forget about it until you start cleaning it out. And here's a perfect time where you can go freezer diving and put together some pretty succulent recipes.
Absolutely. And I think, it's sad to say this, but I think because like Floridians have gotten, when you have hurricanes every couple of years, you kind of go through this like same experience. It might be slightly different in that, it's not so much social distancing, but when you get a hurricane, you lose your power.
Yep.
Or God forbid, hopefully not a couple weeks on end, but you get really good at cleaning out your freezer and getting creative. But you also experience this whole thing where everyone goes crazy at the grocery store and, takes up all the bread and milk and everything. So, it just forces you to be resourceful. So, I know a lot of people, now you're going to the store and everything's wiped out. So I think, if you're like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? Even the meat selection's shitty. That's where even at the grocery store, even if you haven't stockpiled for yourself in the freezer can be an excellent resource, even when you're grocery shopping. Yeah. Like one of my backups, just as someone who tries to have stuff on hand so that I can feed the family and and I'm not always the best about meal planning, even when things are normal, but, just having some clutch items in the freezer can be so, can really just save your ass, right? Like think about things like, I've actually been utilizing Walmart delivery, and that's something, I went to go use the app today. And of course they were not running it because I think everybody had the same idea,
yeah,
but
of course.
A lot of people don't even realize that they do delivery. And if, I'm kind of quasi in the country right now, so I'm thinking if I have it here, most people will have it. But it just gives you an opportunity to minimize exposure if you have it. But also think about things like I've been doing like wild caught frozen salmon fillets, and just having something like that in your freezer is really great because you can do so much stuff with salmon, cedar plank salmon, or just throw it in the oven or the toaster oven, or even make like salmon nuggets if you have an air fryer. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Even if you pair that with some frozen vegetables or some riced cauliflower, stuff that you can just kind of have handy, but it didn't have to be like you got it today at the store, or even frozen meatballs have always been a staple for me because what can you not do with meatballs? Like think about meatballs, like, you can make hoagies, right? Like Italian subs with some marinara and some cheese, or throw them in a tin pan and throw them on your grill in some marinara and let them heat up that way. And then toast some Texas toast and use that to dip into like the marinara meatball sauce and make it kind of like family style. So I just think, you just kind of have to think a little bit outside of the box. You may not find those choice cuts when you go to the grocery store, but maybe you use this as an opportunity to try out cuts that you might not normally cook with, cuts that really benefit from smoke and a braise, like think of oxtails can be really delicious.
Yeah. So good.
Right. And that's really smoke braise. Like they just need time. Even if you don't smoke them, they just need to hang out in liquid and do their thing and let the collagen break down. But, speaking of something like oxtails, like maybe explore the grocery stores that you're not used to exploring. You know what I mean? Like for me, Publix may be wiped out, but you can think out of the box and think of like, maybe I want to go to the Latin grocery store and see what they have for produce, because not everyone's on the same produce delivery schedule. Like today, believe it or not, I totally stocked up on groceries at my local convenience store / meat market, and because people wouldn't expect to do like a full grocery run there, and they're not on the same delivery routes because they have their own, maybe more localized people or whatever it is. They were totally full of everything: toilet paper, meat. I got things like frozen pizzas. So I think you just kind of have to get out of your routine and maybe look outside or get outside of your box where you might maybe do grocery shopping and even just what you might normally cook, and just get creative. Think of it as an opportunity to kind of push the envelope a little bit and explore. And I think now that everyone's having to work from home, now you have a little more time. Think of all the time someone might have spent commuting and use that time to be like, all right, well, now I'm going to throw something on my smoker, or I'm going to throw it in the crock pot or whatever. But you've got a little extra time that you didn't. So, maybe there's a silver lining to all of this craziness, and that maybe you have a little time back in your day to appreciate cooking a good meal together or something.
And that's kind of key to this whole freezer thing that we're talking about is, the freezer is always going to get pushed back during the course of the week, because unless you think about it a night or 2 nights in advance, which typically probably isn't happening Sunday through Friday, maybe Friday night you think, oh, well, Sunday I want to do something and I know I got it in the freezer so you can pull it out. But Monday night when you think about something that's in the freezer, you're not going to use it. It's still got to defrost unless you have like barbecue in a boil bag or something like that. So at this point in time, you can think about something and pull it out and then plan for it in a day or two and continue to do that so you can utilize the stuff in the freezer.
Absolutely. So Scott and I have started doing something, and like, truth be told, he's way more organized than I am, and maybe to the point of being like a little bit, dare I say, like over the top organized. But like sometimes the Outlook invites can be a little bit like, okay, I get it, that's ridiculous. But so every Monday, like, we have a planning session just to go over random shit that we need to do as a family. And that's when you can talk about, like, what are we eating this week? Even before all the craziness of the coronavirus going around, we would just say, what's our meal schedule? What night does the kid have activities, which these days nobody has activities because you have to stay home, but you know what I mean? So you can say, what days do I need to be ready for a dish, and what does that look like? And do we need to go to the store? So now this is the time to do that, to say, what do we want to defrost? How can we make a full meal out of that? Even the vegetables, do we need to try to find some produce, or can we make do with maybe some frozen vegetables, or whatever that may look like, just so you can throw something together that doesn't feel thrown together.
Let me ask you quickly, we got about 3 minutes left. You are also working this year, or was one of the goals, was to highlight women who grill. I know you had a piece on Jackie Milligan, and I'd actually had her on too at some point towards the end of the year. And then you're recently shining a spotlight on Kathy Poulin.
Yeah, I think it's Poulin. I just did a video with her. You have to watch it, other than the fact that, she's such a badass. But it was so funny because I did an interview with her at the Shed Steak Showdown. And there's this friend of mine, he's probably on the show right now, on Instagram, and he's and also Facebook, but he's like a Florida barbecue guy, and he's really into making beef jerky. And I think his Instagram handle is something like, Beef Jerky Greg. But like halfway through the video, he just shows up and like stands in the background because he wanted to give me some beef jerky, but he like stood in the frame of the video, like at least for half the time.
Weirdo.
Like,
good job, weirdo.
Greg, get out of my damn video. Thanks for the beef jerky. But anyway, no, Kathy is like the coolest. She's like such an inspiration because her story is she's a domestic violence survivor. She's actually written a book, and she's really been through a lot of hardships. And I think, the fact that she shares her story and gives back through barbecue is really awesome and inspiring. In fact, she's got her own rub, and she gives back to the local shelter there in San Antonio. But the point is, I think, she's awesome, and there's so many awesome female cooks out there. And I think it's just time that we start highlighting them. I think really with my site, Grill Girl, it's an awesome opportunity for us all to kind of shed light on the fact that there's so many more females in the grilling and barbecue world. And it's so cool to see. So if anyone should highlight it, I feel like it should be me. So stay tuned. What I'm doing is I'm interviewing everyone, and I'm sharing some of their recipes. And actually next week, so Kathy, you'll see her turkey wonton lasagna cups that she's entered for the turkey category in a lot of competitions and done well with it. And next week, I'm actually interviewing Brooke Lewis from The Shed.
Nice. All right. Well, everybody knows Brooke Lewis, so we'll look forward to that. In the meantime, you can check Robyn out at grillgirl.com or follow her on social media at grillgirlrobyn on Instagram, where there are tens of thousands of followers. And you can find her right here the third Tuesday of every month. Robyn, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Be safe, and we'll look for you again in April.
Love you guys. Stay safe, everyone. And
All
I'm
right.
sending vibes.
There she is. Robyn from Grill Girl. Getting out right on time, too, by the way. She's becoming more and more a professional as she wears on here as the regular guest on the third Tuesday, or the second regular guest. Yes, Smokin' Joe, the kiss was for you. Wow. With your nightgown on. Did you say you were the guy putting on a nightgown before Robyn's segment, right? Creep. Emily Detweiler is in the bullpen. I will talk to you about the longest-running sponsor of the show. As we learned in the first hour, DynaQ and UltraQ are the new BBQ Guru automatic pit temperature control products. DynaQ is taking place of the PartyQ, and UltraQ is taking place of the CyberQ Cloud. So you can put in your pre-orders now, and you should receive them, and we're not committing, as Bob said, in about 4 weeks or so. But he's very excited about it. I love the light ring that's going on the outside, so you can see it coming up the temperature. You know when it's at temperature. You know when it's over temperature. You have a great, easy, and very sexy-looking app interface if you want to use that. And the UltraQ does have that Wi-Fi connection capability, so if you want to get outside the house, you also have the ability to look, monitor, and make changes as far as that's concerned as well. It's great. They also have the Monolith BBQ Guru Edition grill, so you know the Ultra and DynaQ are going to fit on those seamlessly. And don't forget, the Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. So hook that controller up to that fan, and you're off and running. And you can have oven-like precision each and every time. It's consistency. That's why you go to the Guru, guru.com. bbqguru.com, bbqguru.com, or call them 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. The BBQ Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We are back with the CEO of KCBS, Emily Detweiler. Stick around.
Celebrating over 10 years of prolific and unparalleled live fire barbecue and grilling talk. And yes, it's still being done from Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show.
All right, this portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 2 sizes, potentially a third coming shortly, and a host of accessories to complete your pit barrel experience. Whether you're a beginner or professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to that arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the BBQ Central Show sent you. By the way, like NBBQA has been canceled here the first weekend in April, also the 10th anniversary of Pit Barrel Cooker's party has been canceled until further notice. So things being affected. And again, go to pitbarrelcooker.com and grab one of those fine cookers. Joining me now and helping me close it out of the bullpen is the CEO of KCBS and friend of the show, Emily Detweiler. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Greg. How are you tonight?
We are inside. We're safe. We're producing non-coronavirus capable barbecue and grilling talk, as always, from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. So we're happy to have you aboard here. Let me ask you, I mean, you're a mom. You got kids. I got kids. What are you practicing right now, and how are you viewing this corona situation at the moment?
Well, I tell you what, it's certainly been challenging to say the least. I think, obviously our thoughts are with everybody right now. I particularly, just because I'm in this boat, feel for all of the parents who are going to be doing double duty, working from home and keeping those kids at home. It is not an easy task. So, I think one of the best things that I can recommend to everybody right now is just be kind to one another, because everybody's stressed. Everybody's scared. It is literally impacting everyone. And so I think just having a little extra courtesy and kindness right now is probably one of the best things that you can do, in addition to washing your hands.
Yeah, got to be sanitary, and I think that's a good lesson for everybody. Are you being reached out to by barbecue restaurants and restaurateurs that are really having issues, or I guess the better question is, since you are in Kansas City and some of the best barbecue is in Kansas City there through the restaurants, this is going to be a real troubling time for a lot of our friends that are making their living doing barbecue restaurants.
It absolutely is. I've seen a lot of great posts from people both with barbecue restaurants in Kansas City, certainly our friends in Iowa. We're seeing things from all over the country, really, with people recommending that, you still order takeout and order gift cards if you want to use those later once everybody's able to go back to some sort of new sense of normal. So, I would certainly encourage people to do that because, again, this is people's living and same thing for all of the contest organizers. I know it's definitely causing all kinds of grief for them. So once things do get back to some sort of sense of a new normal, get out there and support the barbecue community in general, however best you can.
All right, so it is not normal right now, and usually we're really kind of getting into the full swing of competition barbecue as we start the end of March and start to creep into April, springtime. Of course, we have thoughts of Memphis in May coming up here, and we wonder what the future of that is going to hold, or if it's just an inevitable, not if, but when it's going to be canceled. So from a KCBS standpoint, what are you guys doing on a day-to-day basis, fielding questions perhaps from teams and from organizers? And is there a directive that KCBS has going forward until this thing resolves itself?
Great questions, and there's multiple questions in there, so I'd kind of like to break it down.
Sure.
I'll start by saying, we're really trying to monitor things on a day-by-day basis. So, even last week we came out with our response and basically saying, then that was before the 50-person and now the 10-person suggestions were coming down. So, at the end of the day, really what we're saying is look to your local health authority for any recommendations in your area. Obviously, follow the U.S. Center for Disease Control tips on how to keep yourself safe, whether that's at home, work, or other types of environments. We also have a lot of international organization reach as well. So following the World Health Organization for what's going on, and really just using a lot of common sense. So, even over this past weekend, we were still able to have a contest before some of these even further restrictions came about. So, we had talked to everybody ahead of time and sent out notes to the reps and to the organizers as well about just additional protocols that they could take in the judging area. For example, making sure the table captains were wearing gloves and having a serving utensil for each person, that type of thing. So, really trying to help make sure that what was happening inside the tent or judging area was as sanitary as possible. Now we're even hearing that obviously the 10-person or less, which is definitely restricting things. So, it's the organizers, again, the organizers are really the ones who have the final say about what happens with their specific events. And really KCBS's goal is to help support them as much as possible. Excuse me. That was not a corona cough. Don't worry, I just need a drink of water.
We got to go, Emily. Good night. Good night.
No, I'm feeling just fine. Fortunately, since I do have kids, we're taking temperatures in the house all the time.
Yeah,
so,
good.
Anyway, but once the contests are able to proceed, and again, that's going to depend on each local municipality. But we did put out some thoughts today for how best to proceed once that happens, and to be honest, none of us know when that's really going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, we want to help support our organizers. We want to support the teams and the judges. Everybody wants to cook. We understand that right now, the most important thing that anybody can do is to stay safe, stay home, obviously follow the CDC and your local health authority. So that's a number one priority for right now. Once we are able to proceed, we did put out some information today that really just helps give additional guidance to the organizers, to the reps, to the judges in terms of what they really should be doing, both from a judging perspective inside the tents, but also even from a team perspective, and trying to keep themselves with some more distance from others. And again, this is for when things get back to normal. It's just going to be a new normal. So we're not telling everybody that KCBS is allowing contests and all that at the moment. We're just saying that once we get back to we've got some all clears in the different communities to move forward, then we've got some new protocols that we'd like to put in place, at least for this time, because who knows how long this thing is going to go on.
So I would
I
imagine.
wish I had that crystal ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody would love that. But so if I was an organizer and I had an event coming up the first week in April, it's not going to happen. The state that I'm in says there's no way this is going to happen, and we can't. And then we get an all clear, let's say end of June or end of July, whatever the case is. At that point, as an organizer, do I come back to KCBS and say, okay, from a health perspective, we're all clear. I want to go ahead and reschedule my competition ASAP, or do you now have to look at the contests that were on the docket already for that point in time, and now we could be competing in competitions being too close to each other, or do we look at a potentially congested or compacted KCBS schedule because of what's happening now?
Great question. And again, I wish I could predict the future, but I do think a couple things are going to happen. So one, what we have asked all organizers is to reach out to us ASAP to let us know, obviously, if their event is impacted, whether by their choice or by their, city municipality choice, obviously. So reaching out sooner is best. So the minute they know, they really should be reaching out to myself or Kim Collier in our sanctioning office to make sure that we know and we are keeping track of that in real time. The other thing that I would strongly encourage of the organizers, if they think that they are going to try to reschedule for later in 2020, tell us that right away, and also let's start working together to try to target what those dates could look like, because we know that teams are going to want to cook. The organizers want to try to have their contest, and they're going to need to figure out judges as quickly as they can. So the sooner we can start planning for that, the better. We've had some contests that have said, hey, our event, for example, always coincides with a certain thing like, the Apple Tree Festival or something like that. So that has to be at a certain weekend. So therefore it's going to have to be moved to next year. Either way, we are really trying to work very closely with these organizers, to do the right thing for them, helping apply their sanctioning fee for whenever they are able to proceed, if it's later in 2020 or if it's in 2021.
Have you heard from anybody saying, well, oh my gosh, if I don't have it because of what we're currently under from an administrative standpoint, this could be it for me? We hear about it with, restaurants. If I stay shuttered a month or two, I can weather for only so long. Is it similar to some barbecue competitions where if they don't take place this year, they can't redo it next year? This could be the end of it. Do you foresee any of that?
I can't predict that entirely. Obviously, I think the barbecue community tries to be as resilient as possible and really tries to help each other rally. I think if situations would become that dire for a particular contest or an organizer, again, I think it would be great to reach out and have conversations with us about that, because, there might be additional things that we can do to help the community come together and really participate in a bigger way in that particular type of a contest. So, I think in this time, especially of social distancing, it's very easy to just shut everybody out, but really it's a time when we need to be letting people in through conversation, through emails, through phone calls, video calls, things like that, just so that we can keep those types of dialogues open. Because if there's anything that we can all be doing now to help, whether it's a contest, whether it's a barbecue restaurant, whether it's a sanctioning body, stay afloat. These times are not easy for any of us. And so, what I have definitely learned is that the barbecue community really, truly does feel very passionately towards each other and wants to help each other. And, that is something that's the true spirit of barbecue. And I think, if anything, what I've learned is that's going to be what gets everybody through this time.
It doesn't really matter considering everything that's going on, but obviously for the teams that are making a bid for it in 2020, There is the Team of the Year consideration. There was obviously a lot of things that were added to the end. There was big payouts that were going to be happening this year, biggest, I think, in Team of the Year history. There were a number of other things that were being talked about for potentially like a regional or different parts of the country and the world. Things that haven't been set yet, but talked about. Is there any change at this point that you can talk about on a Team of the Year perspective, or it's just too early to tell until you get back up and rolling again?
So we still are planning to have a really strong Team of the Year for 2020, and so I would strongly encourage those teams that are considering making their bid to keep going for it, because the interesting thing that's going to happen, and who knows, none of us know exactly when we're going to be given the all clear for the majority of events to occur, but when they do, teams are going to be out in big force. So I think even some of the smaller contests are actually going to see their numbers up once we can have these contests, because people are chomping at the bit. The other thing that I think is going to be interesting is that some people that might normally be a little bit, kind of more middle of the pack or slightly lower in the top tier of the pack, they might have a better shot this year because of the way this is all going to shake out. So, don't count yourself out for Team of the Year, I guess, is what I would say at this point. We're going to hold our guns and kind of see where we go on all of this, but we're excited. I still do believe that it's going to be a very exciting Team of the Year, points chase.
Yeah, no doubt. Emily Detweiler joining me here on the show. Again, from a communication standpoint or for a reach-out standpoint, if somebody wants to get a hold, is it best to go CEO at kcbs.us, or is there a phone number they should be calling? What's the best way?
Yeah, so if somebody, especially if an organizer needs to reach out with a change to their contest, reach out to me, CEO at kcbs.us. You can also always use our info at kcbs.us. I would also make sure that people understand, again, KCBS is the sanctioning body. We don't run all of these contests. So if you are calling with a specific question about, a specific contest or judging a certain event or things like that, you need to reach out to that contest organizer. We will not have those answers. So I would also make sure that people remember that too.
All right. Emily Detweiler is the CEO of the Kansas City BBQ Society. The website, kcbs.us. She's giving you the contact info. So if you have questions, make sure you're contacting the right people first. And, boy, Emily, you're right. This is going to be exciting to see how this ends up shaking out here at the end of 2020 once things get up and running again. Until then, appreciate the time, as always. Stay safe, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. There she is, Emily Detweiler from the Kansas City BBQ Society. And, I didn't think about, from a competition standpoint, and obviously the show has not been, as they say, competition heavy recently, but she's right. Like, when it gets up and running, and there's many people saying in the chat room, it's months from now. It could be July. It could be August. Everybody's got a guess here. And who knows? There are opinions out there that because of how this virus can affect and who is able to resolve this virus on their own, that perhaps this has been around for 2 months already and 3 months already, and that the accurate count isn't going to be in. So while we're not at the top of the hill here, there is already some bandwidth behind us, and maybe that allows us to wade through this particular inconvenience quicker than anticipated. I don't know if that's the case, but there's some logical thought that I was hearing the New York governor talk about on one of the news channels, so we're going to have to see. But here's the bottom line. There's too many people around each other at a barbecue competition, so that's going to get nixed regardless of where you're at in this country, at least for the foreseeable future. KCBS.us, once again, is the website if you want to get in touch with the Kansas City BBQ Society. But if you are a competitor or you're an organizer, you have specific questions about your event, get in touch with your state and local officials first. KCBS is just the sanctioning body. They're not here to tell you you should have it or you shouldn't have it. All right, we are going to wrap up here for the second hour, and that is the show. 216-220-0966 if you want to jump in. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Stick around. Be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
This portion of the show being brought to you by The Smoke Sheet. Hey now! Weekly newsletter that's free. It keeps you in the know on everything happening in the barbecue world, including top news, events, recipes, and more. Started by Ryan Cooper, the barbecue tourist on Instagram, and Sean Ludwig, New York City Barbecue on Instagram. Both of them traveling around the country to find you the best barbecue and then report on it. You can sign up for the newsletter and see the full events on their barbecue calendar at bbqnewsletter.com. That's bbqnewsletter.com, a great all-in-one resource covering the live fire industry. And I'll be anxious to see exactly how this whole thing is going to be transpiring for the Smoke Sheet, how they're going to backfill content, because contests aren't going to be it. Might I suggest a piece, gents, for the Smoke Sheet, and that would be contacting some of the more high-profile, mid-profile, and low-profile barbecue restaurants and seeing how they're weathering the storm and how they are going to be able, if they are going to be able to, in what time frame have they allotted themselves to be able to maintain this particular forced lifestyle before it causes their ultimate demise. Again, to me, if you're in the service industry and you have been relegated to carry out only, certainly there is some kind of revenue generation on that, but it is easily 2/3 less, maybe even more, than if you were open in your traditional way where people were going in, ordering, you're able to turn tables, flip tills, all that stuff. Your servers are able to make the wage that they're making, and the fact that these guys are and gals are not able to open in some instances or only be carry out. I mean, it's unbelievable. And restaurants are capital driven thing, much like private airline. These are highly capital driven companies. So you're going to have to be, wow, I don't even know. It's that's aside from just the sickness itself, that's upsetting to me because I have a lot of friends that are in the food industry, whether they're a server, whether they're owner, or somewhere in between management, what have you. Man, I'm wishing you guys the best of luck, and I'm here to support all of my Cleveland hangouts through this particular crisis. I will be getting takeout. Tomorrow I will be going to Larder and taking out chicken sando because Corona can't stop them from continuing to make the chicken sando of the best chicken sando of the world. It is. If you come to Cleveland, I will be taking you to Larder, and we will be enjoying chicken sando and charcuterie boards because Jeremy Umansky and Allie and Kenny and the rest of the gang over there is killing it on a daily basis. It's unbelievable. Nick Solaris, who I am probably going to be doing a bonus content podcast with, has called it the most important restaurant in the country, believe it or not. So, gang, if you are in the restaurant industry, I'm here to support you, and boy, it's going to be a tough row, and we're going to see how everything shakes out after this. All right, Platinum Highlights are going to take a powder, but we'll be up and at it again tomorrow. First hour will be available here in minutes. Second hour will be available on Thursday. Best of show on Friday. So you have that to look forward to. Share it around with all your friends if you're going to be shuttered in again next week. Don't forget to catch me live. And tell your friends to catch me live. It's new. It's exciting. There's no sports. There's nothing going on. Only the Barbecue Central Show. We're dominating the airways for 120 minutes. All the way back in the first hour, we had Stephen Raichlen and Bob Trudnak. In the second hour was Robyn Lindars and Emily Detweiler. Big show planned for you next week, believe it or not, of course. September 11th, 2001, I will never forget. And we give you good thoughts on battling Corona here. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.